Hi, my name is Jen and I'm online. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to give you my tried and true pizza dough recipe. Pizza making to me is just so special. I just love making pizza and sharing it with my friends, my families, my neighbors, everyone. It's just so much fun and it means so much to me. So I thought I would share that with you today. Now my pizza dough is at least a 2-day process, and that's because I like to make a poolish first. A poolish is a type of pre-fermented dough that you use to make pizza. The great thing about a poolish is you can use it to make any kind of bread product. It makes any bread product softer, more aromatic, more tasty. With a poolish, if you ferment the dough in advance, it gives the bread a softer, nicer texture as well. And the flavor is just unbeatable. Now, multi-days making bread, it may sound like, hey, that's way too complicated. But trust me, it is super easy, and I'm going to show you day one. Day one is so incredibly easy. You're just going to combine water, bread flour, yeast, and honey. So here is the measurements of the ingredients you need. Now, I find the best way to measure is not using a measuring cup, but to actually weigh out your ingredients. Because baking is almost like chemistry, and you need the exact measurements and the exact amount. So it's always best, in my opinion, to use a scale. So the first thing we're going to do is measure out our 300 grams of flour. Perfect. Now, place that 300 grams of flour in a bowl. Now, I am well aware of the fact that for liquids you use mLs and for solids or flours you use grams. But honestly, it doesn't make a difference, so I just leave it on the grams. And we're going to measure out 300 grams of water. So now we're going to add 5 grams of honey. Whoops, I'm over by a little bit, but that's okay. And then we're going to add 5 grams of yeast. And I just use regular active dry yeast. And now we're just going to mix those ingredients together until the yeast dissolves. Now all that's left to do for tonight is to mix the water with the honey and the yeast into the flour and just stir. And that is my beautiful poolish mixture. I'm just going to put the lid on this and it's going to sit overnight. Welcome back to day 2 and part 2 of my pizza dough recipe. As you know, I love making pizza dough, so we are on to the second process. It is a labor of love because this isn't just whip it up and pop it in the stove or pizza oven. This is a multi-day process of love and of, I don't want to say endurance, but a little bit of endurance and just the love of making pizza. So we are going to go on to the next step, which is checking on our poolish. We're going to add the salt, the oil, the rest of the flour, the rest of the water, get that all mixed up and let it sit, and then get ready to make it into individual dough balls for your pizza pie. So first I'm going to take off my ring because I don't like to have jewelry on because I don't want to get dough and flour all in my wedding band. And let's check on that poolish. Here we go. As you can see by the little bubbles, the yeast has been fermenting nicely. It's just something so magical about that smell. When you know it's just been fermenting, just perfect. I love it. I love every step of this process. So now we're going to start with our water, our salt, and our olive oil. We're going to start with 700 mLs of water, 40 grams of salt, and 20 mLs of olive oil. Let's get going. Now, this is my secret to mixing and keeping everything neat and not all over the counter, is this ginormous mixing bowl. This mixing bowl has come in so handy. I can mix it up in this bowl, I can knead it in this bowl, so I don't have to have everything all over the counter making a huge mess. And this is what I use to knead the dough. But we haven't gotten to that part yet. We are just getting into the part of mixing it. So first thing I'm going to do is my water, oil, and salt mixture is going to go into the bowl. And we will revisit that later. Now it's time to get the flour. Now, this requires about 1,250 grams of flour. So to measure all that flour, you're going to need a big measuring cup. And like I said, it's better to weigh out your ingredients than to actually put it in a cup and level it off, because it just makes things a little bit more accurate. Let's get the flour going. So here comes the most labor-intensive part, putting it all together. So first we're going to start with getting the poolish into the water, salt, and oil mixture. So this is our poolish. We are going to spoon it or scoop it down into the water. Hopefully I don't drop this bowl. I don't typically use my hands for kneading. I use this tool right here, and I'll show you how as soon as I get this poolish all mixed up. So I'm just gonna stir the poolish in here. It doesn't mix that well, but do your best. So we got this all stirred up in here, and I'm just going to slowly add my flour until it gets to the point where I can knead it. Because right now, obviously I'm not gonna stick my hand down in there because it's very soupy. And we're just gonna slowly add the flour in. Once it's to the point of kneading, then you're gonna knead it for 10 minutes. I don't count my 10 minutes until all the flour is added into the mixture. Okay, so now that it's nice and thick, I'm gonna turn it over to my favorite kneading tool. But first I need a little leverage. Here. From this height, I can really put my back into it. And this is my kneading technique. Take my tool, just scrape the sides, bring it back into it, fold it back into itself. Hey Siri, set timer for 10 minutes.
Starting now.
Okay, my 10 minutes are up, and this is what I have, my nice sticky ball of dough. And as you can see, it's come together very nicely. It's still very sticky and not quite ready to be formed into individual pizza pies yet. This is going to sit another 2 hours, and then I'm going to come back and put it into individual pizza balls. And I know it seems like a lot, but trust me, it is totally worth it. So now I'm going to place it back in the bowl. Ooh, this is heavy. Back in the bowl, and this is going to sit for 2 hours. And I didn't time this right, so 2 hours is going to be around 10 o'clock. So in the meantime, in between time, and I don't put any oil or anything in it. I just stick it right back in there. That's why I love this tool. It comes in so handy. Lid goes back on, and it's gonna sit for 2 hours. So I will check back with you in 2 hours and we will finish the final process of my pizza. So I'm back and ready for the third step and near final step for my wonderful pizza dough. And I am going to basically take this out, knead it a little bit, and form it into little balls ready for pizza. Yum. So here we have the dough. It has risen slightly. Oh, it smells so good. So before I get to the process, this is my proofing sheet. I'm going to put a generous amount of oil all over my proofing sheet. I'm gonna rub that in. I am going to be weighing out my pizza dough in balls of 250 grams. So I've got my trusty scale. I've got my plate that I am going to measure my dough balls on. Let's get some oil on this plate so it doesn't stick as much. I think I was super generous with the olive oil here. So we're gonna move that over. I've got my big vat of flour, and this is going to be ready for basically flouring my surface. And I like to use this cutting board that I have just for pizza. I'm just gonna put my dough, I'm dropping dough all over the place, back into my big bowl. I could technically leave it in this bowl, but it's just easier to handle in the big bowl. Oof, or is it? So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a kneading, not a lot. This is the gloriously messy part. I'm just going to flour up my surface here with a generous amount of flour. Turn on my scale, and we are going to get out 250 grams approximately of dough. This is why your hands need to be pretty well floured, because this dough at the moment is quite sticky. I've gotten to the point where I can kind of guesstimate how much 250 grams are, because I've been doing this for a bit. Oh, there we go, 352. So now it is time to work my pizza dough. I'm going to get my hands nice and floury, as you see. I'm going to take my pizza bowl, and I'm going to move around because I don't want to touch the camera with all this dough in my hand, clearly. And this is the motion that I use. I'll try to zoom in on this later. So I pull it back on itself, and I push it forward. Pull it back, push it forward. Pull it forward, push it with the heel. It's like I'm just folding it on itself and then pushing it back. Folding on itself and pushing it back. Then I'm just going to scrunch it, some balls. I don't want to overwork my dough, but I do want to build solid gluten strands. And now it is time for it to go into my proofing sheet. So I'm going to get a generous amount of that olive oil on the surface, and it's just gonna sit there. 261, close enough. Flour up my hands again, grab the dough. Probably should have put a little bit more on my surface, but we'll see how it works out. I don't spend a lot of time kneading, just enough. I am done rolling out my individual pizza ball. As you can see here, that recipe made 9, roughly around 250 gram pizza dough balls. So that's gonna make you about kind of like a 6-inch pie. Now I have some dough from last time that I'm going to reshape and stick in here, and then this is going to go in the refrigerator, and it's going to sit in the refrigerator until I am ready for the pizza party. I'm going to take it out 2 hours before I need it, let it sit at room temperature for about 2 hours. Usually I let it do about 3 hours because I want it to be good in room temperature and easy to work with. So that's it. That's the third step, and the last step is basically forming it into a pizza pie, sticking it in the oven, and that I will bring you in 2 days. So I will see you then.